everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Peanut City Police Podcast. This week we are joined by Major John McCarley. Major McCarley, welcome.
Thank you.
First, we're going to start by just learning more a little bit about you. So tell me a little bit about your career in law enforcement, and you are a major or deputy chief, and kind of how you got to that position.
Sure. So I don't know that I really chose it. Law enforcement kind of was a path that was set on, I like to say, by God. I was a broker for HSBC Bank in New York back in the mid to late 90s when, of course, coming up to 2000, we had the incident with the World Trade Centers. And at that time, when that happened, of course, I wasn't too far away. And that was a moment, a life-changing moment, of course, for a lot of people that day. And that was the most helpless moment in my life that I ever felt. You know, I see all these people running around, trying to figure out what to do, where to go, and I just felt helpless. And me and my wife had a conversation, and we wanted to get out of the city at the time anyway. And I was like, man, what do I do? And my wife, for whatever reason, said, why don't you become a cop? They always seem to know what to do. And, you know, I took it and ran with it. So I applied with Suffolk Police Department and got a call back, and the rest was history after that. So I joined the department in December of 2002. And like all officers, you start at the bottom, the uniform patrol. I enjoyed my years there, 2 years to be exact, and then I was recruited over to the Detective Bureau. And I did the next 6 years in the Detective Bureau. And then I was promoted to sergeant in 2010. Of course, go to the street, do your tour as a sergeant on the squads, and the chief tapped me on the shoulder. Then Chief Bennett tapped me on the shoulder and said, "I want you to go to IA." And I kind of had a reservation, as anybody would, you know, investigating your own. But the system at the time we had and was instituted by the chief was fair, and nobody really had complaints. It was just a way to control our own inner workings, to monitor ourselves, police to police, basically. And from there, I was promoted to lieutenant in 2017. Go back to the street, serve your time on the street as a street lieutenant, and I think it was right at about 6 month mark, I was pulled back into the administrative side of business, and I remained there for a very long time. I was promoted to captain in 2017, stayed in administration, and I was promoted to deputy chief in 2022 and was still in administration at the time. So I had the bulk of my time in administration. I was moved over to operations not too long ago after Major Cassandra Garvin was moved to the investigation side of the house, and she made it very easy for me to slide right in there. She had put some, some plans and some direction in place before I got there. So it was kind of like, you know, here, you take the wheel, and if I had any questions, she helped me out there and kind of just made things easy. And I hope I did the same thing for Jesse, Major Epperson. He's a very smart guy, so he didn't have any problems sliding right into admin and taking that position over. But that's where it got me today, and it's been a whirlwind. It's been a great tour of duty. It's going to be my third career. So I started out in the Air Force, of course. Retired from 20 years in the Air Force. I did my stint on Wall Street. And now this, you know, the sun is going down the mountain, so it won't be much longer here. But of the careers I had, this has been the absolute best and amazing. And I've met the most amazing people in this career right here. Serving your country is great. They're great guys. They do a huge mission for our nation, but as a police officer, you get to do it at home. Mm-hmm. Your mission is kind of the same, but you're at home, and you know you're doing the good work here on the ground where you live and where you work, where you play. So they're very important roles, but very different at the same time.
I like that. Mm. Now, you're in charge of both precincts, which means all of the men and women patrolling our streets fall under you. Can you talk about the importance of that role, especially since they are the main faces that our citizens in the community come in contact with on a daily basis?
Absolutely. So being in charge of operations is a very right now task. Everything that happens for me happens today, and it starts over tomorrow, where in some of the other units or divisions, they have length in their investigations and time. Administration has plans that they can follow through. Most of everything that happens in our world happens right now, and it happens with the interface of the public. And it's very important that our officers in the street reflect our values, goals, and what we try to achieve as police officers. I know there's a lot of bad press out there about police officers, and we try to fight that image here in Suffolk vigorously with transparency, openness, interface with our public. We want them to know who we are and what we do. So our first line officers out there on the street who actually interface with the public, we want them to reflect those values that we hold high. We say police excellence, we actually mean that. We know we're not going to meet it every time, but that's not an excuse to strive for it. So we want the public to know, and we want to have their trust in these instances. We meet them at the worst points in their life sometimes, and it's very difficult for them to understand why we do the things we do sometimes. And we want to take the time to explain and gain some understanding from our public on some of the things that we do, what they see, what they don't understand. And hopefully we can have that communication and dialogue when things really get miscommunicated or tough, that we can still talk without having agitation between us. That's our biggest goal.
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of under the same umbrella there, but a little bit different, special operations also is under you. So can you talk a little bit about what exactly special operations is and a little bit about the different units that we have here at Suffolk Police?
Wow. Special operations is our unsung hero in the department. So as I just discussed with Uniform Patrol, they do the day in and day out with the street, with the interface with the public. Special operations kind of works behind the scene with their different units. So they have the Marine Patrol, the motorcycle group, school resource officers, traffic unit, commercial motor vehicle unit, K-9 unit, photo enforcement, and then they do other tasks like taxi and tow truck inspections, and they handle our mass events, such as Peanut Fest. So these are the guys that they're either planning or they're executing. So they spend half their year planning for events and the other half of the year executing the events. And they all do it behind the scenes, and they work with different city departments, sometimes outside agencies. They move equipment. They are tasked with on-the-fly objectives, like sometimes we have VIPs coming through the city. They get tasked with moving them around. So these guys are very high speed. And they take specialized training like our Marine Patrol group. Even though they're out during a short season, they have to have this high intensity training to work on these waterways, to keep our waterways here safe in Suffolk, and working with the Coast Guard and our neighboring jurisdictions to keep the waterways safe for our boaters, fishers, and anybody that likes to join the water. Our K-9 unit, very specialized. Love our K-9 unit, and we hope to expand it. Major Garvin kind of started the project to keep pushing it, moving it, and open it up, because our schools, they need protection. We get these bomb threats, so we need to expand our K-9 for bomb dogs, and there's a lot of things happening back in the Special Operations Unit, and the captain there, which Captain Chad Hooker is tapped for that role now. He's very knowledgeable. He's been there as a lieutenant. He knows what he's doing, and my hat's off to him because he works hard and he works around the clock. Special operations is exactly that, it's special.
Absolutely, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do you think having the variety of different special operation units, that it helps our day-to-day policing? And if so, how do they make us better or more advanced police department?
Sure, so absolutely. They're an integral part of this department because they keep us from pulling manpower from the street to do some of the tasks and jobs that that would be otherwise task intensive or manpower intensive. So those units are critical, so we can still answer citizen calls for service, still monitor traffic, still continue to do these things without pulling the manpower and time from them. For example, we talked about the K-9 unit. Right now, I think we have five, I want to say 5 K-9s. We want to expand enough so we have one on each shift and one we can deploy in schools to keep, you know, a massive amount of officers trying to hold down a site as these schools are being cleared. So there's little intricacies within this that help these units help the street. We can't operate without them. Marine Patrol, we can't operate without them. When the call goes out for a distressed boat or a swimmer who's stuck out there, we have to have that unit. There's just no way around it. Our motorcycle unit, there are certain areas motorcycles can go. There's certain unique characteristics about a motorcycle that a regular patrol car can't do. So we rely heavily on them for sometimes traffic interdiction. To make sure that these commercial motor vehicles coming through Suffolk are obeying the laws, carrying the correct weight, not tearing our roads up. We have that commercial motor vehicle unit there for that specific purpose, to make sure they're within the guidelines and they're safe hauling of goods back and forth, because, you know, 58 is a major hub here and we're building more warehouses like crazy. So we want to make sure that the trucking rules are followed so it's safe for everybody. These extra or additional units, you would look from the outside and say, do they really need that? And I would tell you, absolutely yes, we do need them.
Yeah, that's important for, I think, our citizens to know too, that they're not just kind of hanging around, that they're working every single day, just like the men and women on the street.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. And want to bring it back to you now a little bit. So you had a really great story at, you know, that you just told us at the beginning about why you became a police officer. And you've been one now for more than 20 years. So if there's somebody watching this and either thinking about being a police officer, or maybe they've never thought about it before, but they're like, you know what, that sounds kind of cool. What would you tell somebody? What have you told people, you know, when talking about this career?
This has been the most rewarding and the most frustrating career of my life. And I wouldn't have it any other way. Even during the frustrating parts of being a police officer, you still have a sense of purpose, a sense of action, a call to duty. And, you know, it's different for different people. But for me, the satisfaction comes in knowing that we have a purposeful job and we have meaning in people's lives, especially if we do it right. What would I say to somebody who's on the cusp? Soul search, definitely, because this is not a job for the weak at all. You're going to see things, hear things that the normal everyday work person, I don't want to say everyday work person, but other professions absolutely won't see and hear. And it can be mentally challenging at the end of the day. So I would say, if you're considering this career, do a lot of soul searching, and don't worry about testing and boards, and because we won't put this badge on you if you don't have it in you. So it takes a lot to do this job. And if you're a person who has that drive and motivation to help and have service, then it's for you. And you go home every day with having something accomplished. I can guarantee you that you're going to do something every day in somebody's life that is meaningful. And it never gets mundane. It is different every day.
That is so true. That is so true. So now we're opening up the floor to you, Major McCarley. Is there anything else you'd like to add or say that we haven't touched on?
My career here has been amazing. I can't put it any other way. Not all of it was good times. I mean, there's rough times, and that always comes with change. And that's one of the things I learned. Change does not crush you, it creates you. I've learned to develop and move and exercise within the walls that I'm given. And I've learned a lot of valuable lessons from my co-workers, from those that work with me, work for me, just everybody has something to pour into me. And they've helped me along. And now it's my job to kind of do the same thing. I just had my 90-day meeting with the new captain of Precinct 1 today. And and he asked me, about expectations, and I said, I told him, expectations change every day, but I told him my job for now is to set you in my seat. I have to prepare you for what's coming now. He knows the expectations. We follow policy, law, and rule. Those are the expectations here. They don't change really. But my job for him is to set him in my seat, because this department is growing. I'm getting old, and we want to keep that police excellence at the top of our list. So I want to do everything in my power to make sure he exceeds in that. And I hope that's the way all our supervisors think. We're building success. We're not only building a police department, but we're trying to build a successful police department. And we can only do that with our citizens' approval. So we strive hard for that. And he had asked me one of the questions, he said, well, how have you been successful in my role so far? And I said, I answer every citizen call, and I call them back, and I answer that to their satisfaction. They might not hear what they want to hear, but I want to assure them that they know that I'm listening, and we want to do what we can for them. So I've always been successful because I've listened to people. So that's what I would have somebody know.
Well, that's great, and you had a lot of great information to share with our citizens, so I appreciate you being on today and joining us.
Thank you.
So that is all for this week. Join us next week. We are going to have a holiday special, learn more about safety and stuff around this time of year. And as always, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in our comments. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.